guarantee them, if I'm your president, I will treat health insurance for you just as if it were my own family.
So ACA, you're a supporter of that. Do you see any changes necessary in the Affordable Care Act?
Oh,
right
yes.
now?
By the way, if you notice, everybody's now adopted the Biden plan. You have Buttigieg, is a good guy, and these others, I'm happy they're doing it, talking about, Medicare for all that want it. That's the Biden plan. When I introduced the legislation, I said there'd be a public option that anybody who had their insurance, the 1.6 million people who like their insurance, they've negotiated with their employers, can keep it. They don't have to give it up, number one. Number two, you in fact can, if you can't afford insurance, you can buy into a Medicare option within my plan, and you don't have to, you can either buy in, or if you don't have the money, you're automatically enrolled in if you're on Medicaid. It also significantly reduces drug prices, as well as making sure that we subsidize what plan you can get within what is now Obamacare, so that you never have to pay more than $1,000 in a deductible. And so I'm really happy that at the last debate you had 3 people saying, I'm for Medicare for all who want it. That's the Biden plan.
I think, Ethan, as we talked today in a locker room at Loras College,
yes.
I believe you've come out with a statement today criticizing Senator Sanders' Medicare for all, and also there's been a lot of pressure on Senator Warren to explain exactly how will she pay for hers without a tax increase. So
they can't. It's physically impossible. There's an independent study, a budget group that came out, is bipartisan, pointed out that it's physically impossible to pay for either of their plans. They cost over $3.4 trillion a year. That's more than the entire federal budget. So they talk about you could tax everybody over $200,000, or maybe it was $250,000, every single penny of their income at 100%, and you couldn't raise but a third or a half of it. And Bernie Sanders, who's been up to this time honest about the need to raise taxes, including the middle class, is now saying, well, I don't have to have a plan. I don't have to tell you how much it's going to cost now. There's time. And Elizabeth Warren is saying she's going to come up with a plan. It is totally unrealistic. It can't be done. My plan can occur the day after I'm elected. We can get it done. You don't have to wait 5 to 10 years to get it done. So I'm not criticizing them personally, but look, there's a little truth in advertising here. Bernie, Elizabeth, how much is your plan going to cost? I'll tell you how much mine costs and what it does.
Iowa farmers under a lot of duress right now. If I just ask you a simple farm question, do you know what it costs a producer of an Iowa farmer to produce a bushel of corn?
Well, it costs a lot of money, but here's the deal. They're not getting return on that money, especially
it's about $4. No, about $3.89.
Yeah, but what's happened is, the only thing that's kept them alive up to now has been actually able to export to China and others, as well as ethanol, and making sure that we had and then Trump comes along, he cuts the ethanol requirement that he yields at the big oil companies. I was at an ethanol plant today. The fact of the matter is, it employs hundreds and hundreds of people at good salaries. It allows for the farmers to be able to make a living off of corn that is now very cheap, and it's going to lead to alternatives to ethanol that are more advantageous biofuels, and possibly get to the place where we're using corn stock as well as other things that are much more will help the rural economy in a big way.
I believe you were at the Dyersville ethanol plant earlier today, and the waivers that the administration has let go to these larger operations, that has really cut down, or potentially could cut down on the production.
Well, it has cut down on the production of ethanol, and I understand, with the exception of one plant out in Siouxland, and that was because a local investor came along, a U.S. investor. And the president then came along and promised, well, no, I'm going to up this again. And he hadn't kept that commitment either. Look, the problem with the president is he has trouble telling the truth of what he's going to do. And Iowa farmers, as well as farmers around the country, are getting killed. We shouldn't be having agricultural tariffs with regard to China. They're stealing our intellectual property. That's the problem. It's not the fact that there's a market for American grain, American corn, and American products. It's they're stealing intellectual property. He's picking the whole wrong fight with China.
Let me ask you, You're not a big fan of polls, I know, but the one came out today about New Hampshire, and you dropped 9 points there. So what are you doing now to increase those numbers, not only in states like New Hampshire, the early states, but here in Iowa, where you actually trail Senator Warren a couple of points in the latest Iowa poll from the Register?
Yeah. Well, look, if all the national polls you show, I'm still winning by 13, 14%.
You're winning most of them, absolutely.
Yeah, and look, I feel good about where we are right now. I plan on winning Iowa and winning New Hampshire. There's a great advantage. Look, Bernie Sanders won New Hampshire with 60% of the vote. Elizabeth Warren has spent millions of dollars, which is, I'm not criticizing, on her Senate campaigns. That all goes into New Hampshire. They're neighboring states. I predict to you I'm going to win New Hampshire. And so, look, this is like a marathon. It's just getting going. It depends on which poll you look at. And so I'm not so focused on the polls. I'm focused on outcomes. And I'm feeling very good the way people are responding. If you take a look at all the polls I've seen, in every single sector, from young people to older people, from African Americans, people of color, I'm the only one that has support across all of them. And so that's the basis upon which I think I'm going to be able to win.
You went to church recently. You're a Catholic. You're a practicing Catholic. I've heard you say that many times.
Yeah.
What did it feel like, though, to be denied a chance to get Holy Communion?
Well,
what did that mean to you?
Well, I'm not going to talk.